For many in the media, the focus has, of course, been on who will be the GOP nominee. And right now, that candidate looks like it will be former President Trump. But there are some who say journalists are making the same mistakes they have time and time again. Steve Krakauer, author of Uncovered: How the Media Got Cozy with Power, Abandoned Its Principles, and Lost the People, here with me right now. You and I have spoken many times before. Mr. Trump has over 60% of the vote, or the popular approval of voters in his own party, according to the latest polling. He's had that support despite a crushing media storm that shines a light on these 4 indictments, serious charges that would really disqualify maybe anybody else. But he just has so much, I don't know, popularity, panache, gall, that he's continuing to run. Why do you think that it's a mistake for the media, and many in media, to focus solely on Trump?
Yeah, I think that a couple things. First of all, these indictments, they're gold for Donald Trump. In fact, we've only seen his rise in the polls because of them. I think that voters, even ones that are not overly Trump fans, people that are general GOP leaners or even some independents, see this as political and partisan, and that's only helped him. But the other thing that's also helped him is that I think we've seen this obsession, certainly a giant focus by most in the media on Donald Trump. And yes, he is far and away the leader in the GOP race. I think the one way to look at it would be, okay, he eats up all the oxygen. He's the sun around a lot of these a lot of the people in the media. He's this gravitational center that they all kind of revolve around. But the other more cynical interpretation is that they want him to be the GOP nominee. They think he's going to be easy to beat, just like the same mistakes they made in 2015 and 2016 when they poured all of the attention, all of the oxygen on Donald Trump. He became the nominee, and they just expected him to easily lose to Hillary Clinton. They think that's going to happen again as well.
Well, but he's used to TV better than any other candidate. He has more television experience. He's a showman. At one point, the media, you could say, loved him. He was a media darling before he spoke out in ways and things were uncovered that the majority of culture would find offensive. Over the weekend, Vivek Ramaswamy was asked about his own insistence, that he would vote for Donald Trump, even if he is ultimately convicted. You say that interviews like those show how our media narratives get constructed and the priorities of the industry and how that prioritization is so misaligned with the majority of the country. What were you tweeting about exactly?
Yeah, I think if you go back and watch, it was a 10-minute interview that began ABC's lead Sunday show, George Stephanopoulos' Sunday show. It's a very prime spot, and they had Vivek Ramaswamy on, who's got lots of interesting opinions on all sorts of topics, love him or hate him. But they spent the entire time, every single question was about Donald Trump. And as you mentioned, a lot of them, I believe it was 3 or 4 insistences of, why would you vote for a convicted felon? Why would you want a convicted felon to be president? All of it around the debate question related to, if Donald Trump was convicted, would you still support him? And I get it. That's an interesting question. But as Vivek said at the time, I don't want to vote for a convicted felon. I don't even want to vote for Donald Trump. I want to be the president. I want to be the guy in the White House there in the general election. So I think it just exemplifies the focus here. You have a candidate, he's number 2 or number 3, depending on what poll you're looking at. And instead of spending any time asking him any questions that may move the needle, may give voters an idea about what is this person all about? Would I support him over the potential front runner? No, every single question was about the sun. It was about how we revolve around this gravitational center, Donald Trump. And it just was so reminiscent of what we saw in 2016 when you had Ted Cruz there, or Marco Rubio, or Carly Fiorina. I mean, remember all these names, John Kasich. All of these people were, what about Donald Trump? How do you differentiate? I mean, it was just an obsession. And I believe we're running that same playbook all over again.
So, I mean, is it a little too late here now? I mean, we're here in 2023. He's the epitome of any press is good press. How should the media be covering the election? How should the media be covering him as well as other candidates, not just within the GOP, but across the board? Though one could say Joe Biden is the sun for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, and as we see from the latest poll, by the way, the big red flag for the press is look at the latest Wall Street Journal poll. Donald Trump is ahead of Joe Biden in a lot of the categories that you look at. So they could be in for a rude awakening if it really is a Biden-Trump matchup again.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.